I don't think anybody in Philadelphia truly knew what we were getting into when we got the news that Kelly Oubre Jr. would be a member of the Sixers for this season. But now, over 60 games into the season, I'm not only happy with how the experiences go, but I'm ready to hitch my wagon to Kelly Oubre being a long-term member of the Sixers. I think last night was an excellent example of why I believe that should be the case. I want to start with a little bit of his on-court play, talk a little bit about the scrap that he got in with Dante DiVincenzo, and lead off with the quote that he got me fired up after the game. So to start off with this, following the game, being asked about the little altercation, Kelly replies, quote, "I ain't got no enemies in this league. All that stuff's funny to me. I don't know why. I just laugh because nobody's going to fight. At the end of the day, I'll see you Tuesday, bro." Kelly Oubre Jr. on his scuffle with Dante DiVincenzo. Now, the scuffle itself was strange in the moment. I'm still not really sure why Dante DiVincenzo was as fired up as he was. I think, frankly, he should have been ejected from the game for the way that he tackled Kelly Oubre. And again, I don't understand why he was upset. That, to me, it was a straight-up basketball foul. It was kind of a situation where Dante was attacking the basket, slowed up, and Kelly was following him from behind, kind of barged into him and sort of hit him on the head. To me, very clearly a basketball foul, nothing to take exception. But DiVincenzo was fired up, rolled over, essentially did some sort of mixture of like a wrestling and football move in the way that he tackled him, and Kelly was straight up cheesing through the whole process. So I have this picture here, which I think fully encapsulates it. Look at Dante clinging onto his knee as Kelly flies back. Isaiah Hartenstein helping with the process by throwing a little shove in there to tip Kelly over, and Kelly just wide-eyed and smiling. So to play the exact video for how this went down, I just want you guys to take note of the expression on Kelly Oubre's face as my man just smiles like he is straight up the Joker here.
Tussle. We got a tussle on the baseline. As DiVincenzo.
So to give that one more shine, take a look at that. As Dante DiVincenzo being held back and pulled back by Paul Reed, who, by the way, got a technical foul for absolutely zero reason in there, did nothing out of line whatsoever. Both Hartenstein and DiVincenzo much farther over the line than anything that Paul Reed did. Paul Reed did not deserve a technical for any part of that. He did receive one, but just take a look at Kelly's expression, staring right back at Dante, towering over him. Kelly just smiling right back, and then a full just basically laughter like the Joker as the video ends here. So let's give this one more watch.
Tussle. We got a tussle on the baseline. As DiVincenzo.
Now, it was not just all getting in fights and scraps that I think encapsulates the Kelly Oubre Jr. experience. From the basketball perspective, I've been very happy of the version of Kelly Oubre that we got. And I think last night, the rock fight, the disappointing basketball game, the Big Ten basketball matchup that we somehow received was a perfect example of why he's valuable to this team. So to start off with the box score, Kelly Oubre leading all scorers with 18 points, also had 10 rebounds of his own, a double-double, had 3 assists and 3 steals. The 3 assists have been growing as a playmaker. He has been getting better in that area. I get it. The efficiency is likely never going to be there. Shot 6 of 19 from the field and 0 of 3 from 3. In general, 18 points on 19 shots is not great, but to me, this was more of a story about the game than the performance of Kelly Oubre Jr. That this is one of the worst offensive matchups that we've seen in the past decade. That this was the the fewest points scored in a victory all season in this game by the Sixers, and the lowest scoring game overall in 8 seasons. That's ridiculous stuff. And to dive into kind of the poor shooting splits here between the two teams, the Sixers on the game shooting 31 of 80 from the field, just 38.8%. And 9 of 30 from 3, just 30% there. Brutal numbers. But the Knicks, even worse. 26 of 80 from the field, just 32.5% there, and 9 of 40 for 3, just 22.5% there. And what I also wanted to highlight was the turnovers. The Sixers managing to force 21 turnovers by the Knicks there. Some really impressive stuff. And they had already eclipsed their average per game in the first half of that matchup. That I do want to give the Sixers credit for, that this was something that I thought it was impactful defense, the way that they switched, the way that they had a scheme ready for this Knicks team. And it overall was really impactful. That even with it not being pretty, you take every single win that you can get while the team is shorthanded, while they are battling the injuries that they have without Tyrese Maxey, without Joel Embiid last night. That is a victory that you want to have. And Kelly Oubre Jr. was the driving force of things. Now, some of this I know was going to swing into Tobias Harris slander and discredit there, and partially rightfully so. To look at his numbers on the game, Tobias adding just 11 points of his own on 14 shots. He did have 12 rebounds and was pretty commanding on the board, so I will give him credit for that there. But 5 of 14 from the field, just 2 assists. It was not an ideal Tobias Harris game, nor have we got one in seemingly years at this point. But it was Kelly that was the guy that stepped up. And what has kind of changed my perspective on how I feel about Kelly Oubre, it is the motor. He competes at a level that very few players in the NBA do. that I'm ready to go into battle with Kelly Oubre Jr. on a night-by-night basis. That is what changed my mind. He played some incredible defense on Jalen Brunson yesterday. I thought that specifically was awesome. And I think throughout the season, this has become a trend that Kelly's defense has been far above him as advertised. And there is a commitment that you see the athleticism, you see the size, a real deal 6'9" athlete, the way that he skies around, can dunk. All these things are very exciting. And one of the offensive ways that has really shown face lately is his realization that he is big, athletic, and stronger than other guys on the floor. That there's been a decision to just get downhill and attack the rim. This relentless commitment to dunking the basketball, which is really refreshing to see, and likely some of his most efficient offense. But on the defensive side of things, I've been equally impressed with the way that he's using his length. I always like when you get bigger guys, and I know obviously he's remembered in such poor terms based on how he went out of Philadelphia. But with Ben Simmons, one of the things that always appealed to me about him defensively is he was at his best when he was guarding guards. All 6'11" of him just swallowing up these smaller opponents. We're seeing a little bit of that with Kelly, that he is switching out on the perimeter, guarding these players which are far shorter than him, and really just using his size to his advantage. It looks like just straight up bullying when it's done right, of him poking the ball, him towering over guys, and it's just very effective for stifling the opponent's offense. And that was something that I did not expect to see from Kelly, that we know kind of what the book is, that he's a microwave scorer, he's a guy that can get it going, and what I think has been crucial to his role is he's essentially a third or fourth option on the Sixers team, but when we get these shorthanded stretches, he's the number one guy ready to step up, that he's ready for an increased shot diet, increased opportunity, the opportunity to make more of an impact, put more shots in the basket, and just make his imprint on the game. I love that willingness, that effort, that excitement. And when you contrast this once again to Tobias Harris, that feels like a guy who isn't ready, that he is who he is exactly every game, regardless of who the players around him is. With Kelly, we see that when the team needs somebody to increase or change the way they play in order to help, he's ready for it. For Tobias, it's kind of more of the same. And to talk a little bit about Kelly's stats on the season, I'll begin by looking at his year-long stats here. That statistically, it feels like a bit of a down year, but a lot of that has to do with opportunity. That 29.3 minutes per game, obviously fewer than he played in Charlotte last year, but still providing 14.6 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 1.2 steals. The shooting efficiency has gone down pretty drastically since the start of the season, just 44.5% from the field. That's slightly above average, and once again, I'll point to the dunking as kind of the driving force of this, but just 30.2% from three. His numbers have been pretty strange from the standpoint as he started out red hot to this season. All his shooting numbers off the charts, the catch and shoot threes. Then there was obviously the car accident situation or whatever happened there. And then when he returned, the efficiency just wasn't there anymore. Shot the ball really poorly, below 30% for a couple months consecutively. And now he is bouncing the back where it does look like a legitimate threat again. And I like Kelly, the decisiveness that he's playing with, that it feels like he's cleaning up the shot diet to where there's not as much messing around in the mid-range, fadeaways, tough shots. It's either the catch and shoot three or it's get downhill. And I also did want to note the playmaking, that I am seeing tangible strides in his decision-making and his ability to get others involved. That is far from the book on Kelly Oubre Jr. That is not something that we've had attached to his game. Frankly, through his career, that this is a guy that has averaged 1 assist per game throughout his entire career, never more than 1.6 over the length of the season, and he's at 1.3 so far this year. Now, I'm not saying that I think Oubre is going to be a guy lighting up the score sheets or ready to play some point guard minutes, but it is nice to see that he's working on this area of the game, and that is opened up by his ability to attack the rim. That these assists are coming off driving kicks, which is some of the most efficient offense in all of basketball, and Oubre is starting to be the driving force of this. And to look a little bit about his game log, I wanted to point out some of this in the recent stretch. As I mentioned, that he's a guy that is stepping up due to the Sixers being shorthanded. When looking at some of these matchups in which they're shorthanded, you can see this clearly. So I wanted to flash back about the last 12 games or so, that some of his impact. I'll start out in that Atlanta game, that 28 points, 12 rebounds, very effective offense, 8 for 19 there. That was what the team needed. And you can see kind of these points bubbling up, that as they're shorthanded, he's providing 16, 24, a little bit of a slip with the 9, 14, 10, 12, and 3. He played only 21 minutes in that Boston game, and that was a blowout pretty much from wire to wire there, so not the biggest thing I'm going to hold against him. But look at these last 5, 21 points, 30 points, 25 points, 20 points, and 18 points last night, which was a matchup in which he led all scorers. And as I mentioned with the assist, this is a guy that has averaged just 1 assist per game total in his career. Looking at the past couple games, 4 assists, 4 assists, 1 assist, 2 assists, 3 assists. That's growth. Even if it's not the prettiest or the most appealing numbers, these are still areas in which the team needed and he is delivering on, and that's intriguing that he's pushing the boundaries of his game in that direction. So with Kelly Oubre, I'm not arguing that I think the best version of him is still a more minimized role than he's currently playing, but that has to do with the injuries. And frankly, this is more proof and more evidence why this was a great decision by Daryl Morey to bring him in. From an attitude standpoint, from an effort standpoint, and just from an on-court ability standpoint, he's exceeding my expectations by a pretty significant margin. Now, Kelly Oubre Jr. was the only player in the NBA last year to average over 20 points per game and be on a veteran's minimum this season. I do think that this stop this year in Philadelphia had a lot to do with rebuilding his value, that he has his eyes set on a massive payday this summer and would like to, I guess, receive a contract that he believes is up to his worth. I think it's pretty wild that the Sixers have been able to get Kelly Oubre Jr. on a veteran's minimum. He's a far better player than that would indicate, so I understand the vision there. But the Sixers are a team with some of the most cap space in the league. And I'm not saying I want Kelly Oubre to be the prime free agent, the guy that all this moving assets and clearing cap space was for. But I would love for him to be a guy that is used to tap into this number, that he is a useful player, a guy that I believe in to compete on an every night basis, and there's more good than bad with Kelly Oubre Jr., which has me bought in on why I'm believing. So while he's not perfect, and you're always going to have to live with some of the poor decisions, the bad shots, I do trust him to compete on both sides of the ball. He has an athletic pop that I think this team needs, and I think there is a real role for Kelly Oubre Jr. when this team is fully constructed, not just in this shorthanded situation. That when you're picturing the way guys play off each other, the skill set that he has, I believe is compatible with Joel Embiid, with Tyrese Maxey, and I think he's overall far exceeded my expectations, and I hope it continues in a Sixers uniform. Let me know what you think about Kelly Oubre Jr. Are the Knicks going to try and get a little get back in Tuesday with the physicality, the scrappiness, all those things? Let me know how you think that'll play out. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button right here on Sixers Digest. Drop a like on this video, and I'll be talking with you next time. Peace.